Hello, my fine friends. Welcome back to Destination Discourse. I'm your host, Stuart Butler, and I'm joined today, luckily, and almost wasn't, with Adam Stoker. Adam, how are you?
Stuart, I'm doing great. If there's one thing I love, it's getting a text message as I'm getting the kids ready for school and especially with costumes and everything going on this morning, to get a text that says, "Hey, are you joining this call?"
Well, apologies to your wife, man. I know it's early out there, and I can only imagine the elaborate costume fitting that you were doing. So apologies to your wife for having to leave her there. I owe her an apology. I owe you an apology. I left you off of the invite. Some might say that was like
Yeah,
some kind of, subconscious act of trying to eliminate you from the show, but I would
it
not say
wouldn't
that.
be
Some might.
outside of your kind of shtick to do
Yeah,
that on purpose. And so I'm a
yeah.
little skeptical. Call me a conspiracy theorist. I don't know if I entirely believe you that it wasn't intent. You would do just about anything for the entertainment factor on this show, Stuart.
That's very true. I'm just not that smart to have thought that one through. But, maybe at some point I'm just going to do the opposite where I deliberately don't invite you. And then I just act indignant and mad that you don't show up and I record anyway. So tuned for that episode. That should be good.
I'm ready for that one.
All right. Well, we are joined today with a guest I did invite to the show. I'm glad she showed up. But Kara Franca is here from the Florida Keys. How are you, Kara?
I'm great. I'm really glad Adam decided to show up too.
Yeah, I can only imagine, Kara, what was being said before the text came my way.
Oh, I was cussing. Yeah, it was. I was.
I saw a different side of Stuart.
That's right. I was super angry. Oh man, sorry, Adam. I apologize.
It's okay. I'm a
I
forgiving
hold my
person.
hands up. That was all on me. So it's all good. We haven't recorded in a while, so I'm maybe not just rusty at recording, but rusty at sending out invites too. I don't know. It's been a few weeks. That's
It's
my
all good.
excuse. I'm sticking with it. Today's gonna be an awesome show. Kara, I don't know if you knew this, but I've stolen so much from you over the years. Like you were one of the first people to really attack AI, and have an opinion on it. And then you put out some really good commentary on how to adopt it and how to look at AI from a DMO perspective early on. So thank you for that. I've leaned on it, and I'm sure countless of us have. So hopefully we're going to
Wow.
have more of that magic today.
Thanks for saying that. I
Yeah,
thought might as well just get out there. It will be old the second all of those papers hit, publication.
yeah,
But if
yeah.
it can even help anybody just kind of get over that rivet in the very beginning, it'd be worth it.
Yeah, well, I think there's probably a lot of unknown named folks that you don't understand how much you impacted them, and we are certainly
Wow.
one of those. So thank you for that. And I think you come out from a real different perspective. Your background, you have a legal background, is that right?
Yes, I'm an attorney. I started my career in Miami as a criminal prosecutor.
Yeah. So I think that analytical sort of factual approach to stuff really showed in the white paper that you published, which was what, 3 years ago now? I don't even remember how long ago it was.
Yeah, I think so. Being
Yeah.
an attorney is helpful too when you want to cross-examine people who are screwing with you.
Mm,
I'll bring that out at some point in this
nice.
episode.
So note to
I'm
self, don't
excited.
screw
Let's
Kara.
let's try to get the attorney to come out at some point.
Okay.
All right. All right, Adam, you're bad cop today. Okay. I'm going to stay fully good cop on this one. Uh, we're going
So
to be
so
talking a lot.
just a normal day.
Yeah, pretty much. We're going to talk about AI today. So I know Kara has a topic she wants to touch on with AI and where things are going, but I think it's only appropriate that the greatest segment in all of documented history of humanity, we talk about that today as well. So let's go, Adam. It's time for Stu's News.
All right, here we go.
You're not talking today, Adam? Over the
No,
thing?
I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to evolve.
I think the people said they liked you talking. It was funny to me.
Whoa,
Have
Yeah,
have you not heard the jingle yet, Kara?
that is something else.
yeah, it's something to experience firsthand, right? With the graphic and
The
everything.
graphic,
So
I think, really makes it. Like, do people get to see the graphic?
we do
Oh
publish on
yeah.
YouTube, but most
Okay,
people
good.
listen on podcasts. So yeah, the majority of the destination do not get to see that amazing graphic. So
So and
It's
Kara, I got to tell you, early on in the show, I went on and I made this jingle with AI, and I kind of made it as a joke, but then it just became part of the shtick of the show that we needed to have the jingle, and I was a big fan. Stuart hated it, and the fact that Stuart hated it and I loved it made it even more fun to do. And now he finally admitted on our most recent episode that we released that he likes the jingle, and I just
yeah.
feel so accomplished with that.
It
Is a
gives me
strong
like
word.
that vibe of, have you heard that song, It's Raining Tacos?
Mhm.
Yes, I have. And there was a time in my home when it was playing on Alexa every single day. It does have that feel.
It's not quite that earwormy, but it's up there. I mean, we have merch with it on now, so I mean, it's a thing. We made fetch happen, so
We
it's
did.
good. All right, so Stu's today is just Adam. You and I have not recorded in like 2 or 3 weeks, but it feels like 2 years in AI world, right? So
Yes.
since we recorded, I think VO had just no, not VO. OpenAI's video had just come out. The new app, right? The social media app had just come out, like the TikTok app, which we've been having a ball with here and creating like sort of Myrtle Beach related accounts and creating all kinds of stupid videos and actually getting some audience from it. But then OpenAI came out and said, "Hey, we're going to do transactions right within the LLM," and they announced an integration with Shopify. And all these stores now, you can actually, instead of just browsing products, you can actually go right there and purchase, and it uses your credit card on file. It's insane. Then they came out and announced a deal with Expedia and Booking Holdings, which is like, oh, now that hotels are getting transacted. And then they shook the world up by coming out with a browser that embeds all the features of AI in it and really makes it a lot easier from, especially from an agentic perspective, to sort of see what's going on as you're using those kind of tools. So it's like the acceleration of change is out of control, and it's
Can I
really
add
hard.
one more
Even
piece of news?
yeah,
So they also, it's been leaked that they are preparing to IPO at a $1 trillion valuation,
market
which may
cap,
be
yeah,
the largest IPO ever.
yeah, and you wouldn't bet against it, right? I mean,
No,
who's it,
no.
it yeah. So I think we're in the midst of something revolutionary. We're also beginning to hear sort of that backlash. Amazon just laid off a lot of workers, right? In part because of AI. We're beginning to see the direct impact of this stuff. I still don't think the DMO world is awake to this. I talked about this on the show where I was at a board meeting of a high profile group of folks in this industry, and people were rolling their eyes when anyone brought up AI, and they were actively dismissive of it. And it's really, really scary, And so I think even for folks like, you and Kara, who are at the forefront of AI, I can't keep up. Like, it's
Yeah.
hard for me to stay on top of what's happening and be able to be a good user of the new technology. Like, I've installed the new browser, I've tinkered with it for a bit, but I haven't dug in, right? I haven't really thought about what this means. So I'm going to hand it to you first, Adam, and then Kara. But like, how are you feeling about this sort of acceleration of change all of a sudden?
Yeah, I feel like you and I have been a little bit chicken little in the destination marketing industry now for a while because we've talked about how if we don't evolve at least somewhat mirroring the rate of change in technology, there's a real fear that destinations could become irrelevant. And all of that seemed like, yeah, but that's someday. Like that might
Mm-hmm.
not happen, right? And all of the sudden, the change that you and I have been predicting for a long time has happened in the last couple of weeks. And that's the ability to transact within the Chat GPT interface. What that change is going to create, more than any of the other changes that have happened, is the ability to entirely circumvent the process of utilizing a destination website for your trip planning. And once you create the ability to circumvent this experience, a big portion of the relevance that we've tried to maintain as a destination marketing industry, it immediately is whittled away. And I'm really nervous for those that have used their website like a glorified directory or a listing site, and that's been about it. the traffic hit that's going to happen in the next year, 18 months, nobody's prepared for it. And so I'm really nervous for the industry. And I think if there's anybody that's the answer to any question in the organization is because we've always done it this way, you're already going to lose. And
Yeah.
everybody, and that goes from the CEO all the way down to the individual employee that's just coordinating a few things. Everyone has to be evolving. And I've been getting complaints on my team, and I'm really grateful. I've got an incredible team, but in complaints about the rate of change in our organization as we're trying to continue to pivot. That's happening in every organization. But that's the reality that we're living in. And we're looking at Amazon laying off all of the people that they have. And there was tons more companies that did
Yeah.
big layoffs.
Hmm.
If we don't evolve, that is the result. And so I'm really concerned industry wide, and that goes for the vendors, that goes for the DMOs, that there's like the purchasing being able to happen within the Chat GPT interface. I'm hoping it's the wake up call that everybody needs to recognize we can no longer say, oh, we'll wait and see what happens. But we have to adopt, we have to evolve, or relevance is going to be the question.
Yeah. Kara, where do you
Yeah,
stand on this?
I could not agree more. And I think the scary thing to me is if the three of us are kind of early adopters and it is overwhelming for me to keep up with this change, then how do we like just to kind of give everybody a like a little bit of grace here. This is hard stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
Hmm.
even keeping up with all of these different pieces that keep dropping while you're running, like major businesses, and then your funding is being attacked, and then you have political bombs being dropped. And it's like, I think for some people who are in leadership, it's just like, yikes. I don't even know how to even begin to traverse this because it's so big. And then the website piece, so much yes, Adam. It's going to be a big bomb that goes off. And I think that a lot of the leadership doesn't even understand what's on the back end of their website. I mean, I don't
Hmm.
like, I just built a brand new one. It came out on Monday. And so
Oh, nice.
yeah, it's phase one. MMGY built it for us. It's got Matador Guide Geek. It's got Intentful on the back end. I love Mindtrip. And so we've looked at them too. But, with all of that's a hard decision. But the way that we built this was, how do we think not just like 5 years out? How do we think in 6 months when
Hmm.
bots are combing the website to look for information? What are they getting? And then what is the user experience as well? So that
Hmm.
has to be the new approach to websites. But if you've had the same website for 20 years, I don't even know like how you get your tech stack converted to a place where bots can read it. And even what I'm saying right now is going to be overwhelming to people to begin to figure that out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem is like people don't know where to start. I'm going to give you another kudos, Kara, because this is something, again, I stole from you early on, was you were someone that came out and said you in your internal team were having during your stand-up meetings was saying, what have each of you done in AI this week at the very beginning, right? As we were all sort of figuring it out. And so we adopted that same mindset of let's talk about it, let's make it part of the culture, let's make it cool to share. But I'll be honest, we can't do that anymore because it's just accelerated exponentially. And it's like, I don't know if you saw this. Google came out with something. I don't even know when, was it this week or not, but I saw it yesterday. I think it's called Pomeli or something like that. But it's basically an automated AI marketing agency. So you can basically have it run if you're a small business, you can have it run your ad campaigns for you from creative to end point. And so obviously that's not something today that would necessarily work for a complex DMO, but it's not that far away. Google also this week, because we talked about open AI, made a massive breakthrough with quantum computing. And so one of the limitations of AI right now is the amount of compute it takes. Now, if we accelerate quantum computing at the same time we're accelerating AI, and compute is no longer the limitation for AI, we go to a whole nother level of acceleration. So it's like, oh my Lord, like
Yeah.
what are we going to do about this? So
Can
I don't
I
know that I fully have the answer to that at this point.
I want to read you a tweet that I saw this week from somebody who's a great follow if you're trying to keep up with what's going on in AI. It's a guy named Greg Eisenberg. Do either of you follow Greg Eisenberg, or have you seen his
Mm-mm.
stuff on
No.
X? It's really interesting. He says, my takeaway from today's OpenAI browser launch, and this is a couple of weeks ago. Well, it looks like October 21st. He says the internet just got hands. The average person won't Google, click, compare, or fill out forms within the next 24 months. They'll just say, book my trip, find me a job, launch my store, and the agent will do the 20 steps behind the scenes. That means whole industries, travel, e-commerce, real estate, insurance, education, are about to get rebuilt around outcomes instead of pages. You won't go to Expedia, you'll just get the trip. If you're a founder, this is the moment to think in verbs. Don't build platforms people visit, build agents that finish what people start. That's where the next $100 billion companies come from. The web is shifting from human browsing to agent doing, internet hands. And I thought that was a pretty
Yeah.
good way to illustrate the transition that we're in right now and where it looks like things are going to go.
For me,
Yeah.
that's like that sparks like a fight or flight response. Like,
Hmm. I get the feeling you're
ah,
more of a fighter than a flighter, though.
I'm a fighter. But like imagine, like that's so overwhelming. But
Hmm.
truth.
Yeah, yeah. And I think what we've got to do, right, is really kind of step back and redeploy. We've talked about this on the show before, redeploy first principles. Like, what is our purpose? Like,
Mm-hmm.
our purpose as a DMO was never to build a website, right? At one point, websites didn't exist. Like, it certainly in 1896, when the first DMO was created in, what was it, Detroit, websites weren't a thing, right? Social media wasn't a thing, digital media wasn't a thing. So the point that we existed before this and can exist after this is true, but we've just got to think about what is our core purpose, right? If we're really the economic development driver for tourism in our community, if we're in the business of quality of life for our community through tourism, those things won't change because of AI. Just how we go about those will. So I think I want to transition from Stu's News into the topic because I know, Kara, you're a big fan of sort of educating the tourism entities in your community. I think you guys are more progressive than most in terms of how you stay relevant and navigate this change. So where do you want to dive into with the topic today? Can I hand it to you?
So what I think, and I think it actually parlays pretty nicely with your closing statement of Stu's News, because if we're looking at our purpose and we're looking at right now and our relevancy, I think that sharing the pieces of the puzzle that we're figuring out, we're building the bicycle as we go, is a big part of that, not only for other DMOs, but for our stakeholders. So one of the
Yeah.
things that I'm trying to do, I started a Substack just to try to get the information out as fast as I can. But like I'll take like fishing guides because we're talking about the Florida Keys. So fishing guides,
Hmm.
you have these, incredible entrepreneurs, and it's experience that people want to have when they come down. But how are people going to find them?
Hmm.
When all of this really starts to take effect, AI agents are not reading their website, because their website was, who knows? I mean, it's probably nothing, and they're not keeping up with any of that stuff. I think right now it's about teaching our stakeholders how to ride this wave and how to
Hmm.
get their tech stacks in place. And so I saw this incredible webinar. You guys know Marina from Intentful.
Uh-huh.
Hmm.
She showed, and I can give you the link too if you want to post it. But she showed what a DMO website in Wisconsin, I don't, it's not a big place, so I hadn't heard of it before, but she showed what it looked like to humans and what it looked like to AI. And the
Yeah.
AI, what it looked like to AI was nothing. And
Hmm.
that's probably going to be the majority of our stakeholders. It's going to be the majority of the other DMOs. So even just showing them that, and then, okay, that's overwhelming. Now, how do I fix the back end of my website? And so then it's like, have they heard of schema? Do
Right.
you know what
Hmm.
schema is? It's kind of like the 101 for tech. It's how do we teach our stakeholders that, because they're good at showing people where to find fish. If
Yeah.
we're talking about the fishing guides. So then the service that the DMO could provide to them to make them not only relevant for now, for the next 6 months, for the next year, and then as the next thing comes out, we figure it out and then we teach our stakeholders, okay, you've got your website, you've got schema, but here's the next thing that you got to be ready for. That's where I think we need to
Yeah.
be, is in the place of teaching others how to ride the wave with us.
Yeah, and you've done a really good job with that. I've read some of your Substack articles. Are they getting much traction? Are you getting feedback from your stakeholders for the content that you're pushing out?
I think I'm scaring the you know what out of them.
Yeah, which is probably not bad, right? I think everyone needs to be a little scared right now to really face the reality that we're moving into. I, you know, one of the philosophical shifts I think is going to have to happen in our industry is we wanted to control and own our ecosystem, right? We wanted to take credit for every little thing and it be ours, and we'll send at media to our website, and we want to track our website to visitation. And um, I think we've got to start looking at the product itself and the marketing value that our stakeholders can create as part of a bigger ecosystem that we are the convener for, that we are maybe the leader and driver for. But we're not going to have a singular larger voice as we once did, right? The paid media ecosystem is going to continue to struggle and shift. Although I'm less convinced that it's going to go away, I think it's just going to evolve. Our website as it stands is going to probably be obsolete as interfaces change, because I think we're so focused now on an AI browser. But if I fast forward several years, whether that's 2 or 5 or 10 or 20, it doesn't matter. At some point, there's just a frictionless interface that we all use that sometimes is a screen, sometimes is a voice, but it's omnipresent and frictionless. So where do we live in that? So I think we've got to stop saying my website, my whatever, and we got to start looking at what's the end result. We want a thriving hospitality industry in our destination. We want healthy businesses that are investing in experiences. How do we be the catalyst and the curator and the convener and the leader in that ecosystem? I think
Yeah.
that's where where I'm thinking, and it means our time is going to shift. Like there's probably very few CEOs of DMOs like right now, like Kara, that are going out there and writing articles that are how-tos for their stakeholders. There's very few doing that, but I think you're going to see an increase in that, because I think our role is going to stop being about us. It's going to start being more about the community. Not that it wasn't about the community, but I think where we spend our time is going to be more out than in. So.
Well, it fits nicely with, like DI's destination stewardship idea too, a
Mm-hmm.
focus on the community. But I want to
Yeah.
challenge you on something, or maybe what I want to hear is more. So with the
I'm so
idea
excited for this.
of the idea of
Here
websites.
comes cross-examination. Objection, Your Honor.
I've been looking forward to this.
So say more about how our websites are going to be obsolete, because if there's not an information source, like at
Yeah.
what point does it break away from the source where it needs some sort of authority to tell them what's what?
Yeah. I think we're always going to be a source of truth, right? I think we have to be that we have the resources to create contextual first person documentation of what the experience is and the value our destination creates are, right? So I think someone has to do that. I just think how that manifests is going to be different. Like at one point, that was a printed visitor guide, right? At the next point, it was a very rudimentary website, which was white background, blue links, black text. And then it became something a little more interactive with Web 2. Then it became mobile. Then it became like our social platforms, right? So there's been an evolution of where that content lives. I think one, we've got to get better at creating unique, valuable content that no one else has, because I think
Yeah.
that's how we outcompete, right? I think we can do that better than the OTAs. I think that we can do that better than our individual stakeholders, right? We are the storytellers, but I think we have to dramatically increase the volume of the unique, contextual, individualized stories we're telling. But then how that where that is stored right now is in a CMS, right? And we went through this sort of phase of what was called headless CMS several years ago that never really manifested to where people thought, where it's like we'll have one store of the information and then it will get disseminated to multiple endpoints. I think we're actually going to end up more there, where things like MCP and agents are going to be a bigger role in our future where, let me step back a little bit. So I've been talking to Jeanette Rouse at Brand USA, right?
Love
Obviously, we
her
all know one of
pieces.
the
Yeah.
leaders in AI
Yeah.
in our industry, right? If not the leader. She's really fascinated with MCP, and she's increasingly convinced me that that's potential. But what I think we're going to need at some point is there's going to be global LLMs, right? Global AI overlords that are going to have a summary of most things, the generic information about our destination. They're going to need to tap into individualized contextual content about our destination. And they're probably going to want to go the path of least resistance. Right now, that path of least resistance is going to OTAs or going to some aggregator, right? So
Right.
what we're talking to Jeanette about and others is, could Brand USA or someone else, could it be a DI, becomes the travel aggregator that the major LLMs then through MCP or some other technology can get their content, but then we as individual destinations push our content up to them. So there's like
I
this
think
layer of content truth holders for destinations.
our
I
listeners
think
need to
that's
understand what an
probably
MCP is. You guys have both mentioned that, and I'm not sure our listeners
so. Think of it
will
as a
know what that is.
protocol. Like most people have heard of API, right? A
Mm-hmm.
API is essentially a documented way that two systems can talk to each other, right? Um, it's the code in which it's the schema in which people can make code and know how to communicate, how to make a handshake between two systems. MCP was put out by Anthropic, and it's a standard for basically an agent and an agent to talk to each other, right? So one
Perfect.
agent can say, "Hey, I need more information on this restaurant in Mona Beach," and it goes out and finds another agent that has that information, and then MCP is essentially that
Yep.
the blueprint for which they can communicate.
MCP is the technology that allows agents to interact without a human needing to be a part of the discussion in the middle.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah. Think of it as a way to exchange data,
Yep.
right? Or information. So we're going to have to. So when I say, Kara, to back to your question, that websites are going to be obsolete, what I mean is websites in their current form, where we have a CMS and a GUI front end, a graphical user interface that a human interacts with, probably won't exist in its current form
Yeah.
in the future. We'll still need the content. We'll still need to organize it. We'll still need a taxonomy. We'll still need to be able to disseminate that. I just don't think it's going to be in a WordPress front end.
So that's interesting. We just dealt with this. So I had a board meeting this week, and we had, until I came in, they were selling ads on our old website, the previous agency that they were selling ads on the website. And so,
Wait, I'm sorry. What does that mean? What does that mean?
that means they're no longer the same agency. So we stopped doing that, and then we've been rebuilding the website, but everyone expected that there was going to be ads on it, and we haven't been selling them for the last 6 months. So I had to go in front of the board and basically explain to them, you know, we could do an RFP to get another company to sell ads on the website, but no one's going to see them
Mhm.
because we're going to get to this point where an AI agent who doesn't see the ad, they want the
Mhm.
content, so they're skipping that and looking at the back. So then we're charging our stakeholders essentially for something, and the business is just going to go down. So if we start a new program, the business is just going to go down on
Yep.
how that goes. Now, I don't believe that for all of paid media in the near future. I don't know what it means at all for the extended future. And I think what you're saying, Stuart, is absolutely fascinating. And I have not thought that deeply about what that means for the website in the future. And
Well,
I don't think you're wrong.
can I just give you a little bit more? And I can't believe it. I'm going to defend Stuart here, but so when we talk about websites, I want to talk a little bit about how we got here, because with where websites have been going over the last 10 years, we've continued to optimize because of performance marketing, right? Where you could start to understand the metrics. If I spend $1 here, I'm going to get this much in return through bookings or whatever, right? And our industry, even though we didn't truly have the data connections to allow us to understand the true impact of that performance marketing, we followed the trend and we optimized our websites for performance marketing, where if you buy the Google ad or the social media ad or whatever, you can drive to conversion. Because what it allowed us to do is to go to our boards, to go to our stakeholders and say, yes, we're spending this much money. Here's the economic impact that we're generating in return. And we optimized our websites for that. And Stuart mentioned, well, we need to go back and think about, why do we exist? Why does our website exist? Because this change, if it is going to take us out of a lot of the booking process when agents are doing this, optimizing our website for conversion performance just blew up our entire model for websites, because the conversion isn't going to happen there in the long term. And what you're saying, Kara, where, and I totally agree with this, is that the destination instead needs to look at, how are we going to have our website and other activities inform the LLM, which
Yeah.
is going to provide the booking experience. And we've been kind of on this tear to justify our funding, to justify our activities. And we've leveraged website performance data to do that. But now, if we look at what's going to make the impact, there's a difference, right? Like, we're going to have to come up with a different method of impact. And I think part of that, it comes from not needing to have the credit as an organization in the same way. But instead, we're going to have to go back to some of the holistic metrics of, like, okay, here's the activities we did. What happened with visitation, and how does that correlate with industry benchmarks? And if you'll indulge me for one more second, it goes back to when COVID hit, and I hate to be the guy that invokes COVID, right? But when COVID hit,
If you
I
say
saw
pivot next, I'm gonna hang up on you.
when COVID hit, I watched every destination go from a performance demonstration industry to, I need to add value to my community in any way that I can. That puts us in an educational role. That puts us in, like, boots on the ground helping. I saw destinations handing out food to people and helping the restaurants stay in business that were there. And somehow we quickly, even though it's just been a few years since COVID, we've gone back a little bit to the, well, here's the metrics that justify our existence. And I think we've got to go back to that boots on the ground. How do we help all of our stakeholder businesses get their information into the LLMs, which means we have to understand the LLMs as well as anybody, so that we can be that resource for our community. Everyone has to start doing what Kara's doing in her community and be the source of information, the source of education that allows the tourism industry as a whole to thrive in each destination.
I would take it a step further too. I think we have to turn the whole model on its head as far as how we spend our money, because everybody wants what? The money. And
Uh-huh.
Stuart and I were comparing budget sizes before this conversation started. But this idea, if we
Who
know,
won?
Stuart, by a million or so, maybe 10. But I think that to show value, we have to also show how we're investing the money. And if a majority of the money is being invested in marketing, watch me like piss off everybody in the industry right now, right?
Yeah.
If the
Hmm.
majority of the money is being spent on the marketing and all of that is going to change, then you are going to get caught with your pants down. If
Yes.
we can show that the way we're spending the money is optimized also for this time, I think that's different. We invested $11 million back into the community. Some of it's like coral restoration, some of it's infrastructure. The Florida statute is very strict and clear about what you can and can't spend it on. But just that alone shuts down some of the naysayers who are like, oh, you're just going and blowing, millions of dollars on marketing. People are going to come to the Keys no matter what. Those people are going to keep saying that. And then the governments are going to keep wanting to take your money. And then other people are going to keep wanting to take your money. So I think we have to have the conversations about blowing up that model too.
I think
Yeah,
you're
it's
100%
it's really
correct.
tough, right? The chickens are coming home to roost for our industry. We've built our value on transaction on vanity metrics, right? Our value is being. I go back to the conversation we had with Zeke Coleman near the beginning of the show, where he talked about the red pill, blue pill analogy, and how we're all sort of being taking this idealistic blue pill that we pretend like everything's fine, it's all fine, and we're ignoring all the threats and all the issues. But now's the time when everyone has to take the red pill. And I agree with you, Kara. I think it's really scary for a lot of DMOs who are very protective of that budget and want to control that budget. But again, we got to step back first principles and say, what should we be doing to maximally help our community across the board? And how can we demonstrate value in other ways that aren't clicks and traffic, and in a way that is felt by people. So they don't just see it, but they feel it in a tangible, real way. So whether that is product development, whether that is education, whether that is workforce, I think we've got to really think of ourselves as economic development. Like, I think that's what we are, right? We're driving the tourism economy. It is a form of economic development. When we look at attracting events or sports groups or the next hotel, like that we need to be more involved in that side of the business. And a lot of DMOs are so focused on just marketing, which is important, or just sales and sports, which is important, but we've got to be holistic in our approach and say we are in charge of leading in and making sure that our tourism economy is healthy in our destination. And that goes a lot deeper than a lot
Well,
of the activities that we've done in the past.
and this goes also for even at the job description level for individual people in our organization. We can
Hmm.
no longer have a list of responsibilities and tasks and say, well, we as an organization are going to be held accountable to outcomes, but you
Hmm.
have this list to complete.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
think we need to start modifying job descriptions as well. And instead, we have outcome owners whose job is to leverage technology, infrastructure, personnel, whatever to accomplish the specific outcome. And if our individual people in the organization are held accountable to outcomes, and those roll up to the organizational outcomes that we're going to be presenting to the community that make us successful and that show that we bring value, that's where the change will happen. But if all the job descriptions stay the same and we're like, well, we're going to go away from paid media centric marketing and instead we're going to go to outcomes, but all our job descriptions, titles, and structure and infrastructure is going to stay the same, nothing's going to change. We're just going to call the same thing something different.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fascinating. I want a tangible example of that, and for selfish reasons. So when I came into the Florida Keys in Key West a year ago, it was like pulling up, this organization that was buried in the sand in a time capsule from like 1992. They had $60 million budget, and they still thought they had like a $6 million budget. There was 12 people on staff. Nobody in
Hmm.
marketing, public relations, communications, advocacy, partnership, um, accounting. Like, there were a few salespeople and a few admin people. So I've had the great pleasure of building a team the past year. We're up to 30 and trying to think of what the model is now for DMOs, but what do we need? So selfishly, I would like to know, like,
Yeah.
what positions would you think for this, era that we're in, along the lines of your description of a different job description, what would you pick?
Yeah. So the experience that I can give you is from my organization. And even though we're not a DMO, let's pretend it's your marketing department. And I would look at it very similar with what you do in your marketing department. And what we had to do, and we made this decision about 4 or 5 months ago, that we let our entire team know that we're no longer going to just have everybody siloed. One person's buying digital ads, one person's posting on social media, one person's a graphic designer. We said, no, everybody is a technology enabled marketing strategist. And you're going to be given an initiative and you're going to need to leverage the tools at your availability to be able to accomplish that initiative. And you're going to be held accountable to the outcome of the initiative, right? And so we're no longer having the digital marketing person just be a button pusher that and then put some reports together, but instead you get to own an initiative, and it's still going to be the right initiatives for the right people in the organization. I'm not going to go say, hey, person who just got hired 3 months ago, you're responsible for the success of Myrtle Beach's marketing account that they've allowed us to be a part of, right? It's the right people are getting the right initiatives, but they have to own it soup to nuts. And I think that's how you're going to train, small initiative, maybe medium initiative, and build up to these major initiatives. But the marketer of the future is going to have a digital marketing agent
Yes.
at their disposal, right? They're going to have an agent that posts on social media, and they're going to be paid for how they think, not what they do. And I think that's the shift that also needs to happen in a destination marketing organization. Stop thinking about the tactics as how you're allocating personnel, but instead it's, what thinkers do I need and what do I need them to accomplish? And let's start getting them in the habit of thinking instead of doing.
Okay,
Yeah.
I love this. And I think I have an assignment for anybody who wants to try something that I just tried, and it might work or it might not. But so I had my assistant, she's fantastic, young, up and comer, energetic. I said, okay, I want you to interview every single person on the team. I want you to pull their job description, and then I want you to record the interview. And I want you to feed it all through the ChatGPT Teams account, because that's what we have our corporate account.
Mhm.
And I want you to ask it what that person's job should be going forward. Like, how can AI make them better? What should they be concentrating on? And then as you do it for each person, let's then put it all together and do like an analysis. And then I'm like, so what we haven't gotten to yet, this is because this is like part of her growth, is that I want you to present it to the exec team, like your findings
Mhm.
or whatever.
I
So
love
that's the
Yeah.
point. She's done all the interviews, she's done all of the queries, she's printed out all the queries, she's got them, and the next part is the presentation. I think that would be really interesting if other DMOs tried doing that to see, okay, based on what you have, what could you do for the future?
I
Kara, I
love it.
love that. And sorry, Stuart, and then I'll get out of the way. But I love that because you gave her an initiative that is not her job description, right?
No.
And she has to own it. And then she's presenting the results to your team. I think that's where it's going. And go ahead, Stuart, hop in.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is fascinating. You and I have talked about this before, Adam, how sort of we're shifting to more generalists than specialists, right? And
Yeah.
there are challenges with that, right? I think throughout my history, I've really looked for one key attribute when I'm hiring. And I don't really care about experience. I don't really care about anything other than scrappiness and attitude, probably attitude
Yes.
and scrappiness,
Happiness.
right?
Yes.
I think if someone can be willing to be uncomfortable and can be comfortable being uncomfortable, if they're willing to roll up their sleeves and be a little feisty and figure shit out that they don't know, um, those people tend to be more successful throughout my career, right? We've hired those people, they tend to be more successful. I think everyone's going to have to be a little bit or a lot bit scrappy. I would call it a scrappy
Yes.
optimist, right? You've got to have a positive outlook at the future, but you're going to have to be like, well, I don't know what is going on here, but I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to work hard, but I'm always going to need leadership that gives me my North Star. Like that's where we're going to have to evolve our roles is to Adam's point. I think telling people, here's what we want to accomplish. And if I go back to the tweet you read earlier, Adam, and I'll butcher it a little bit, but what he was saying was the agents are going to be able to finish the thought that the human started, right? The human
Yes.
will have the idea, the creative spark, the desire. They're going to have the taste. They're going to have the unrelated knowledge that they need to make a discerned decision. But then the technology is going to be able to execute that. So we're all going to become conductors of an orchestra of agents. In order to do that, we're going to have to be scrappy because we're going to be learning stuff that we are not comfortable with. We're going to have to be developing things that don't exist, right? That's going to be increasingly part of us. So we've got to get comfortable being uncomfortable and tell our team, hey, here's the end goal. Every decision you make, go towards this, but go be comfortable being uncomfortable. You need to be 60, 70% uncomfortable in your job these days. Otherwise, we're going to get left behind so fast that we're going to deserve to get shut down. The governments will deserve to pull our funding because we'll be investing dollars down the drain in a way that does not help our economy or our community. So it's hard though.
It's
And
hard.
we'll lose some people. Not everyone can get
Yeah.
on this train. Not everyone
Well,
will
so what
make
do
it.
you think it looks like? So, because you're right, not everyone's going to get on the train, and we want everybody to, and we got
Mhm.
to find more ways to do that. And maybe it's, through DI's educational programs, definitely Jeanette and Brand USA, and people can plug in and learn and figure things out. And you want people to have that initiative. Not everybody's going to. That's just a reality.
Mhm.
So then what does it look like? I don't know that it's like a combustion of the industry. Is it a consolidation?
I think so. I think it has to be a consolidation. And here's why. I think there's a lot of people trying to accomplish the same things in our industry right now. There's a lot of people trying to do certifications or educations or be the thought leaders or do the thing. Like there's a lot of people from coming at it from different angles. And it's so much that they've created a lack of gravity, right? Because some people listen to these folks, some people listen to these folks, some are tuning them all out because it's just a lot of noise. So I think we've got to figure out how to get the signal to noise ratio corrected. And I think consolidation is the best way to do that. I think if I was one of the major power structures in the industry, I'd be trying to partner with every other power structure I could to figure out what's the best practices. What are the playbooks, the white papers we can put out and agree to that this is the path forward? We need really smart people doing that. And I sit on, a handful of committees, and everyone is struggling, but no one's really saying, let's assemble the Avengers of the DMO world together to really
the
solve this problem,
Avengers.
right? Let's bring together the best of the best and lock them away for whatever amount of time it takes, and let's figure out a path forward. And knowing that every DMO is slightly different, and every DMO is very different, but we have the same common shared objective, right, to help our community and improve the quality of life for our residents.
And that's
But
what we're trying to do with this show, right? Like we are
yeah,
trying to scream from the rooftops some of
but
the
we're
change
part
that
of the
needs to
problem, though,
happen.
right? I'm a bit of a hypocrite because we're one of those people that's creating noise. I mean, maybe we're doing that antagonistically and deliberately to try to manifest change. I think I think we have to see consolidation so
Yeah.
we can all move forward in a common path. I think it's inevitable.
So I think we got to rally behind. I mean, this is a great platform. And I think that this is a raw conversation that you're not going to hear at the conferences, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so
Part of the problem.
yeah, that may be part of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Jeanette is like the queen, so I think rallying behind Brand USA too. And I don't know what that all looks like, but I know that you all are making a difference and you got to keep doing it.
Well, we're not going to shut up because not only, do our livelihoods depend on it, but I think the future of this entire industry depends on some troublemakers creating some trouble right now, because
The only chance of this slowing down is Stuart not putting me on the invite when we're scheduling a show.
Well, he did try to cut you out today, so.
Hoisted by my own petard. I know it's not good. But I would love for some of these folks that are the other big powerhouses in the industry to come on and have this conversation with us, right? But we got to stop playing it safe. We got to stop playing to the lowest common denominator. We got to stop being politically correct at conferences. Like there's content that's coming up at this next year's conferences that could have been said 3 years ago, right?
Yes.
We shouldn't be having conversations we could have had 3 years ago because the world is fundamentally a different place now. So let's take risks. Let's start having discourse. Let's start creating like people that are willing to stand up and say the uncomfortable truths in the room. Like we have to do it because otherwise the blue pill is, I don't know. I feel like I see where that ends and it's not good for anyone. So this is a great conversation, Kara. I appreciate you stoking the fire a little bit. You got us passionate today. This is a good one.
I like it. It's all good.
I just want to add one thing because one of the components of Kara's topic that she brought to the show was fueling LLMs. And I'll say one of my weakest services as an organization is earned media. We're not fantastic at earned media, but we better figure it out because earned media seems to be getting the most value in LLM results. And if I was going to make a prediction today, I would say a large amount of budget over the next few years is going to shift in our industry from paid media to earned media because of the LLM results and how they're valuing earned media.
Damn. I mean,
That's
you've been hitting this.
Stayed for the end. That was pretty damn good.
Well, and the fact that you've been drumming that beat for like, I don't know, 5 years, that it's shifting from paid to owned media. And now you're saying it's paid to earned. I think to your previous points in this show, Adam, it's going to be more of a blend, right? Where paid, earned, and owned are actually working more in unison. I think we're at the beginning of the LLM era in terms of discovery and how it works, which is very similar in a lot of ways to early SEO. What we don't have yet is the tools we had back then, right? But I think they're going to get developed very
They're coming.
quickly. I think right now we're
Yeah.
like, okay, what do we know works? Well, it seems like schema, as Kara mentioned, is the best thing we can do. Make sure that the semantics of our website is clear, making sure that it's indexable. But then what's the page rank breakthrough for LLMs that we had with search that we haven't had yet, right? When PageRank was created, we're like, oh, that makes sense. We got to get everyone talking about us and linking to us, right? That makes sense. We haven't had that sort of moment yet with LLMs where we know, oh, this is where our focus needs to be. I think I'm betting on it being very similar. I think they're going to look for, they're going to understand the semantics, but they're going to look for proxies for quality in relevance. But I think it's going to be different. The search engines in that it's going to be so individualized to the person, which is why I think we've got to be really granular with our content creation and really contextual and individualized with our content creation. The generic blurbs about how great Myrtle Beach is, 60 miles of beautiful oceanfront, coastal, blah, 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 cuisine, music, blah, blah, that's not relevant anymore. What we got to do is say, hey, I'm this person who likes these things, and here's the experience I had, and it was fantastic, and here are the places I went. Like, that's the kind of stuff, storytelling we got to do. So,
Yeah.
Kara, I would love to have you back on the show. You got us
Yes.
going today. This is a good one.
I'd
I
love to.
like these spirited conversations. If I'd actually would like you to come back and talk a little bit more in depth about the topic we wanted you to talk about today, which was how to interact with the stakeholders a little more and really share some of the thought leadership you've been pushing out on Substack. But if people want to follow that, if they want to follow you and follow that content, where can they best do that?
Yeah, I think so. On Substack, it's just, I think, Kara Franker. So that's pretty easy. And then if you want to take a look at the new website that may be obsolete, keys.com.
You got 6 months. It's good.
6 months, it's all right.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you. Adam, if they want to reach you.
Adam at thebrandrevolt.com. You can find me on Tourism IQ or on LinkedIn.
Great. You can find me at Stuart Butler on LinkedIn or email me stuart.butler@visitmyrtlebeach.com. Please leave a review, subscribe, a comment, something. Let us know you're listening. But also, if you agree, disagree, or if you want to come on the show and have a feisty debate or conversation like this one, we'd love to have you on the show. So, Kara, thank you again for inspiring this conversation, but also inspiring me in our journey at Visit Myrtle Beach. And hopefully you're inspiring lots of others with this conversation today. So everyone, until next time, this has been Destination Discourse.
Thanks, everybody.